One thing that you'll see on my videos and have already, and also on all the Hunt Shack Wilderness Experience channel, is that I like to recycle and reuse all of the natural materials here that I possibly can. When I cut down a tree and limb it off, anything that's as big as, say, I don't know, an inch in diameter or whatever, I'll just take a pair of pruning shears or something and I'll trim those all up into lengths, and they make dandy kindling. Now, there's a lot of people say, why would you take the time to do that? I mean, you know, as you can see, I'm in the middle of the boreal forest. I'm 6-7 miles from the nearest community. Nothing but trees and bush between me and anywhere. But just because we have an abundance of natural resources is no excuse for us to be wasteful, you know, and just make a mess of places and leave broken branches and stuff. It takes several years for those to deteriorate. And I'm going to take, otherwise I would be taking good firewood, good chunks of firewood, and splitting it up to make kindling. So I'm still putting in the time to do that, and I'm taking what would be a good piece of firewood that might burn for a couple of hours, and I'm turning it into kindling when I've got an entire area through of deadfalls and broken branches. And I mean, it's just thick around here with that stuff. I could heat my whole cabin for the entire winter just on bits and pieces of deadfalls that probably weren't more than 2 inches in diameter. The only disadvantage, of course, would you be refilling the wood stove every couple of hours and you wouldn't get much sleep, but there's just plenty of it is the point. So just as I said, just because the resources are there doesn't mean that we should be out squandering them or being wasteful of them. That's exactly why the world is in the situation that it's in now, with all the waste and so on, and people just not really caring and saying, oh, there's so much of it, who cares? We'll just get another one. And you know, we really want to try to break that mentality and get to the point where we realize that these resources are precious. They're not going to be here forever if we are wasteful and you know, don't take care of what we're doing. And we can already see that because we've polluted, I don't even want to go there, the amount of damage that we've already done to this poor planet. So, you know, just over the course of the time, this is one of the reasons I like to live in a quiet area, live off the land as much as possible, grow some of my own vegetables, just make it worthwhile that way. More offcuts from the mill. These pieces are all cedar, and I've separated them from the spruce tamarack simply because the colors of the wood as they season are a little bit different. So I thought I would do the front and that first northwest corner all in cedar, so it was a bit of a match, because that's what we've got going on here so far. This is all cedar, and it's got that lighter color, and it will stay a lighter color as long as I put something clear on it. It won't get too much of that gray, where the spruce here really, and tamarack, the tamarack is really stable. It's like the cedar. It lasts a long time, but still I probably will put some kind of a sealer coat, some kind of an oil over it. This old door is going to be cut down to fit the coop. Because this has been my first year in the cabin full time, I wasn't prepared with the equipment to open the lane myself, so they plowed it for me. And they dug in a little bit deep, as you can see, and have pushed up a lot of, basically it's moss, clay, it's not bad soil actually, some of it, and left ridges almost the whole distance down the half-mile laneway, or most of it. So I'm shoveling it up. I'm going to put it in the trailer here, and I'll show you. My gardens are going to be based on a hugelkultur type thing, despite the fact that I did use the tiller last year, and I'll explain that here shortly. So this is a job that can happen over the course of the summer. The reason I'm working on it a bit today, rather than finishing off the coop, is that true to Canada, the weather over the last several days has been a combination of rain, snow, sleet, freezing rain, and today hail. So in between the little bursts of that, we get 15-20 minutes of snow, and then maybe half an hour of not really sunny weather, but where it's not doing too much. So it's given me an opportunity to come out bit by bit and start to shovel up some of this stuff. And boy, by the time I go down this this half-mile driveway here, 0.6 of a mile, it's not everywhere, and it's more on the side of the lake here than it is on the other side. But it's a little bit both ways as you go along. At any rate, there's a lot of it, so I should be able to build my gardens up far more than what I need to, and I'll probably bring even more of it and start 2 or 3 compost piles with all the leaves. Look, this is all these dead leaves from the fall. Could all be raked up and added in, and I can make 3 or 4 compost piles, so I'll probably do that as well. And I've spaded up more so far this year, as you know, in between more important jobs. It's getting there. And I'm also, it rolls over here, the vertical drop from the level of this garden to the level down there is about 8 feet. Oh, it's starting to sprinkle freezing rain a little bit. At any rate, so as I've been cutting out rotten trees and trees that were in the way, I've been building up a little retaining wall here. And I'm going to continue to build it up a little bit more, but I want to basically level that part of the garden where it rolled over. Not 100% because I like the drainage, but just enough to be able to use it. I've also put tarps down here and all the way over to there. So the garden, when it's this year, when I get it dug out and I'll till this part again, will be about 30 by 50, maybe a bit more than 50. And I will till this again. Now, as you know, you might wonder about no-till gardening, and I'm talking about running my big tiller through here. This soil, I'll be generous and call it soil, is cement. It is the hardest packed clay. Look at this stuff. And when it gets wet and then dries, it is absolutely cement. And it just, look at this. And it just, you could, honestly, you could use that for concrete. It's, maybe I will actually, just for the heck of it, but it's got very little nutritional value, but when it dries hard as a rock and cracks. And even though I could put, you know, good soil and compost and sort of things just on top of it, and it would eventually go down into the clay and break it up and make it nice, that kind of thing, doing it naturally, could take 2 or 3 or 5 years. And that's a long time that I'm not going to be able to really crop this thing, and I just really can't wait that long. I need to get something going. So I'm doing it this way. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm going to till all this up. I'm going to get it all dug up the first year. I'll probably retill this one just because I want to bring it all level again. And I'll get the whole thing tilled up, and then after that, I'm going to be doing basically just fillers and composts and whatever I can. And I'm going to start building up this level of soil. And over the years, I'll be able to use it in the meantime, and I'll also raise the level of the soil. Probably, I'm going to make that retaining wall just a little bit higher than what it is here. So I can build up the whole area, even on this more level spot, probably by close to a foot. And that's nearly 3 feet right there, 2.5. So it'll make a big difference. And you know, for a single garden, that's not too bad. There is another garden I'll show you here shortly I'll do the same thing with. And as this decomposes and the weight of the material and the rain gets on it, it will start to pack down, of course, and it'll start to degrade over the years, and that will cause it to pack down more. So for the next couple of years, I'm probably, well, it's really starting to freezing rain. I don't know if you can hear that rattling off the tarp. Yeah, I'm getting wet. Anyways, that will start to pack down. So for the first 2 or 3 years, I'm probably going to have to continue to put the soil on here and keep building it up till it's level. And I'm getting wet, so is the camera. And then eventually I'll continue to be putting compost and so on top anyways. So it's always an endless work in progress. I'm going to get some cover here before the camera gets soaked. You can see the hail bouncing off the seat of the snowmobile there. It's actually coming down pretty good right now. Just great. This is like the 5th time today it's hailed. Of hail and rain and snow and slush. I've managed to scoop up dead leaves and bits of splinters of wood from splitting wood in the winter, and I've added it to my compost pile and turned it. So it's still too cold for it to start working, but at least it's got a lot of good mixture in there now. There's a good little bit of horse manure in there, and leaves and old grass and all sorts of stuff. So as soon as it gets a little bit warmer, it should get going pretty good. Just a day of odd jobs in between the hail. 10 or 15 minutes here and a few minutes for there. And this is about 20 minutes after the last shot I showed where the hail was pouring down. And it's been like this off and on all day long. And then another half hour we'll be back at it probably. Anyways, this area in front here is the island, so to speak, of my circular driveway. And right here is directly in front of the cabin door, which is behind me. So I'm going to have another garden here. It won't be too big, not much bigger than what it is now. So it's about 12 feet across, and I would say, well, it's going to go a little bit more over this way. So it's about 12 by 24-ish. And I'm going to put the things in here that really need the most amount of sun. This gets more sun all day long than anywhere else. Also, I should, right up here, build a stand and put the solar panels here. And I hate that idea because, as I said, I'm like 30 feet from the front of the cabin. So when I walk out the front door, which is right there, the first thing that's going to be in my face are those two great big solar panels, and I hate that. But from an efficiency point of view, this is very definitely the best place to be. My second choice would be in the garden where we just were, but there's several times when it would get an hour of shadow here and there, an hour or so in the morning from one direction, and maybe another hour or more in the afternoon from trees in a different direction. So certainly not, probably 3 hours less sunlight, direct sunlight, than what I'm going to get here, which is basically morning till dark. So I'm afraid that's probably where it's going to have to be. Yeah, not much like it, but it's the way it is. This is my wood pile, and I'm going to saw it up for the rest of the firewood for next year and more. Some of the pieces inside are not a bad size. There's a couple in there. You can see there's a couple in there like that. That one there's not too bad. That's probably 10 inches. That's got to be a good 12 inches. There's another one over there. Any of those that are sort of 8 to 10 inches or better, I'm probably going to use on the sawmill. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. This is the hunt shack from my previous channel, Hunt Shack Wilderness Experience. That's going to have to move. It drops off quite steeply here, as you can probably see, and then there's a river right over here that sweeps all the way around across behind the property, as well as the lake, which is right there, which is right in front of the cabin. But right across here, I'll have enough distance from that post where the back of the hunt shack is to where this ground gets higher a bit, is just about exactly 30 feet. So I'm going to build a shed, a drive shed basically, open front, which will be the distance across there, approximately 30 feet, 32, whatever I've got, out about 12 feet. And I'm going to bring the sawmill here because this is going to be its new home. And I'm going to put the sawmill in the open front shed so that it's back, leaving enough room on the back wall for me to get around it and work it, but basically just so that it's out of the weather, essentially. And then I can stack whatever logs I need here that can be rolled up onto the bunk. And once I move the hunt shack here and the boat and so on, I can make, I'll have probably, well, the hunt shack's 8 feet, so there's another probably 10 feet to the outside of the trailer. So that's 18 and 4, it's 22, and probably, well, that's maybe to here. You won't want to go too close to the edge. So that's probably another 8 feet. So there's probably another 30 plus feet here, 30 feet, let's say, here. Because it's going to be on a diagonal going into the workshop this direction, I can easily get access to put, the biggest logs I can cut are 16 feet. So I don't really have to have huge access. The shed will be longer than the sawmill, and I'll be able to tuck my tractor or something up in there. But here, that will still give me room for 30 by 30, so I could put a pretty dandy barn there if that comes to it. I can't at this point foresee needing a barn that big, but the space is there if I decide to go that way. So I think that's pretty much going to conclude the video. I'm afraid I haven't really given you very much content this time, but just kind of a walkabout, a little peek at the property, as well as a chance to get a few ideas of what's going on, or at least what I hope is going to go on. So everybody have a great day, great week. We'll see you all the next time. Just a telephone pole. It's been broken off. It's been abandoned here. Somebody's been hacking it. Looks like they might have been busting it up and burning it, but I could use that to put my clothesline on. The question is loading it into the trailer. My gosh, these things are heavy. Yeesh. Okay, just had to take a breather for a second. Let's finish this job. Bad way to move it. It sticks out probably 3 feet, but best I could do without any tools. If I'd have had my chainsaw with me, I would have just squared off where it was all hacked up anyways and fixed it that way. But this trailer is 12 feet long, and it's 5 or 6 feet longer than that, even diagonally, so it's a good 20 feet. I don't know what it weighs, but my gosh. Anyways, I'm at my lake here, so I don't really even have to go anywhere far with it, just up to the cabin, and I don't have to go anywhere on a public road, so let's just get her back. Just a few months away from turning 67, and it makes me wonder sometimes, what am I ever going to do when I start to get older? You know, I've heard of people who, when they get old, can't do a lot of things. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Hopefully those days are a long way away yet.